समय की क्योंकि कमी है, लेकिन फिर भी एक बहुत आदरणीय हमारे श्रोता रहे 4 दिन, आचार्य सनत कुमार, जो वेदार्थ कल्पतरु गुरुकुलम पंचकुला से आए थे और 4 दिन जिन्होंने यहाँ पर बैठे हैं, देखा है। बहुत ही आपसे निवेदन है 2 मिनट में आप अपने विचार यहाँ पे रखें। 2 मिनट।
सभी को सादर नमस्ते। जो वैदिक ज्ञान के वैज्ञानिक पक्ष से जो एक कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई है, इसमें मैंने भी भाग लिया है। तो इसमें और क्या हो सकता है, इसका क्या लाभ समाज, राष्ट्र और विश्व को हो सकते हैं। सबसे पहले तो मैं अध्यक्ष आदि का सबका धन्यवाद करूंगा कि उन्होंने मुझे अवसर दिया। देखिए, आज संसार में ग्लोबल वार्मिंग नाम की एक समस्या है जिसका किसी वैज्ञानिक संस्था के पास में अभी तक कोई समाधान नहीं है, चाहे वो नासा हो या दुनिया की कोई भी संस्थान हो। किंतु हमारे वेदों में, अपने कार्यक्रम का ही देश विदेश में नाम रहता है, संसार की ज्वलन समस्याओं के वैदिक समाधान। वेदों से उसका समाधान क्या हो सकता है। आप देखिए, दुनिया में 21 जून को क्या होता है, योगा डे। ये योग विद्या किसकी है, वेद की। उसी वेद की एक विद्या भी है यज्ञ, हवन, होम, सोमयाग। और योग के वेदों में मंत्र अगर ढूंढेंगे तो 500 से ज्यादा नहीं है चारों वेदों में, किंतु यज्ञ के लिए 5000 से ज्यादा हैं। और 4 ब्राह्मण ग्रंथ है, 4 श्रोसूत्र है, और हमारा पैदा होने से लेकर मरने तक सारा कार्य हवन से ही होता है। तो हवन सामान्य कैसे हो सकता है, तो उसी को लेकर हमने कुछ प्रयोग किए। तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड, PM10, PM2.5, ये 70% से कम हुआ। अभी हमने दिल्ली में किया, रिपोर्ट मेरे पास सारी है, दिखाने का समय नहीं है। दूसरा, जो माइक्रोबायोलॉजी की दृष्टि से जो बैक्टीरिया आदि हैं, और सीवरेज लाइन जो पानी है उसको भी हमने कलेक्ट किया, एक सैंपल लेबोरेटरी में भेजा। दूसरा, यज्ञ के पास ट्रीटमेंट किया, तो उसमें भी 60% से ज्यादा वायरस आदि किलिंग होंगे। तो ये कुछ बातें हैं। यदि वेव्स इस कार्य को चाहे तो दुनिया में पुनः, जिसकी हम कल्पना करते हैं, सर्वव्यापी सुखिनः भवन्तु। क्योंकि फार्मिंग, यज्ञ कहां काम नहीं करता। आज 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए भारत सरकार पेस्टिसाइड, यूरिया और जो उसकी लोगों, किसानों को पैसा देती है, और ऊपर से वही बीमारियां हमें वापस आती है, उनको संभालने के लिए फिर पैसा लगाती है। तो जितनी भी वर्षा नहीं हो रही है, स्वास्थ्य अच्छा नहीं है, वायरस है, प्राणो यज्ञेन कल्पताम, मनो यज्ञेन कल्पताम, मेधा यज्ञेन कल्पताम। यज्ञ के द्वारा बुद्धि से लेके जितनी भी सारी समस्याएं हैं उनका समाधान हो सकता है। तो मैंने ये कुछ बातें आपके सामने रखी। संसार की ज्वलन समस्याओं का वैदिक समाधान यज्ञ। ओम शांति शांति।
बहुत धन्यवाद। ये जैसे कि बात हुई, इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में 3 जनरेशन के लोगों ने भाग लिया। उसी तरह से 3 संस्थाओं ने मिलकर ये आयोजन किया, भारतीय विद्या भवन, वेव्स इंटरनेशनल, वेव्स इंडिया। उसी तरह से 3 भाषाओं में यहाँ पत्र पढ़े गए, इंग्लिश, हिंदी और संस्कृत। और अभी भी इस मंच से तीनों भाषाओं में लोगों ने बातचीत किया है। और इसी तरह से 3-3 करके बहुत सी बातें गिनाई जा सकती हैं, लेकिन वो उनका समय नहीं है। मैं बहुत संक्षेप में यहाँ पर धन्यवाद का पुनीत कार्य निर्वाह करना चाहूँगी। इसमें पूरे कॉन्फ्रेंस में 130 पत्र पढ़े गए, जिनमें से बाहर से 28 या 30 के लगभग विद्वानों ने भाग लिया, जो 6 कंट्रीज बाहर के देशों से आए हुए थे, और जिनमें भारत के सभी प्रांतों के लोग थे, दूर दूर के प्रांतों से लेकर सभी प्रांतों के लोग थे। और जिन्होंने यहाँ पर किसी भी कार्य के आयोजन में संस्कृत और वेद पढ़ने वाले जानते हैं कि 3 तरह की शक्तियों का योगदान होता है। अभी ललन प्रसाद जी अर्थशास्त्र कह चुके हैं, ये वहीं पर है। प्रभु शक्ति, मंत्र शक्ति और उत्साह शक्ति। प्रभु शक्ति, जो उसके पास ताकत हो कि वो कुछ कर सके, राजा के लिए हैं ये सब बातें, लेकिन हर कार्य में करने के लिए वही नीति नियम लगते हैं। तो प्रभु शक्ति मेरे पास थी। ये बहुत, तीनों संस्थाओं ने मुझे पूरी तरह से स्वतंत्र रखा हुआ था, जैसे चाहे मैं वैसे कार्य करूं, अपनी बुद्धि से करूं। लेकिन दूसरी शक्ति मंत्र शक्ति थी, जो हमारे बलराम जी हमारे पीछे थे मंत्र ना देने के लिए। जहाँ कोई अड़चन, रुकावट, वो मंत्रणा देते थे, वो मंत्र शक्ति का कार्य कर रहे थे। किसी भी टाइम पर कार्य को कहीं पर भी रोक कर, टिक लगाकर उसका करेक्शन किया जाता था। और मैं एक राजा की भांति, जो कि एक थोड़ा सा कम बुद्धि का राजा है, उसकी भांति मंत्री की बात सुनती चलती थी। और तीसरे शक्ति होती है उत्साह शक्ति। जो सेनापति होता है वो उत्साह शक्ति होती है, जो राजा का बीच बीच में उत्साह बढ़ाता जाता है और खुद कुछ करे ना करे मगर उत्साह बढ़ाता जाता है और उससे काम लेता जाता है। वो हमारे धीरू भाई जी थे, जो बीच बीच में हमारा उत्साह बढ़ाते जाते, कुछ एक दो प्रशंसा के वाक्य लिख देते और उससे मैं एक हफ्ते तक और काम कर लेती। तो ये तीनों शक्तियाँ मुझ में जगा कर मेरे से काम लिया दोनों वेव्स ने, और उसके लिए मैं आप सभी के प्रति आभार व्यक्त करती हूँ। जब यहाँ पर आयोजन के लिए हम एकत्र हो जाते हैं तो बहुत तरह के और फ्रंट भी खुल जाते हैं और उनमें कार्य करने में सब बच्चों ने और हमारे छात्रों ने, और मैं उनको भी छात्र कहती हूँ जो यंग टीचर्स हैं, बहुत बार गलती भी हो जाती है। वो भी रंजीत बहेरा तो अभी रीडर हैं यूनिवर्सिटी में, मगर मैं उनको छात्र कह देती हूँ। तो इन सब लोगों ने मिलकर भाग लिया और उनके एक एक के नाम यहाँ लेना मुश्किल है, फिर भी कुछ नाम मुझे लेने हैं जिन्होंने वॉलेंटियर के रूप में बाहर बैठे रहे और इस कमरे के अंदर बैठे रहे या हॉल में। कृतिका मोहन, आप लोग मंच पर आइए। गरिमा वैद, मोहित शर्मा, विकास शर्मा, सत्यम, आकांक्षा, वनिता यादव, रेखा कुमारी, सुरुचि शर्मा, स्वाति पॉल, अपर्णा धीर, सुप्रिया, संजू, उमेश सिंह, तहसीन मंडल जो अलीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी से आए हुए थे और 4 दिन तक वो भी यहाँ पर कार्य करते रहे। इनमें से बहुत से लोगों ने पेपर भी पढ़े हैं और उन्हें सर्टिफिकेट उसी समय मिल गए, लेकिन जिनको नहीं मिले उनको अभी यहाँ पर सर्टिफिकेट दिए जा रहे हैं। तहसीन आइए, इन्होंने फोटोग्राफी का कार्य निभाया और दौड़ भाग का कार्य किया। ऐसे सबने मिलकर ये कार्य संपन्न किए, क्योंकि बहुत जगह जब कार्य शुरू होता है तो उसको निभाना पड़ता है। जो मेरे
मैडम आप भी आ जाइए,
प्रेम आप भी आ जाइए, और विरमा तुम भी आओ। एक मित्र मंडली भी होती है जो कि आपका उत्साह बढ़ाती है और आपको सहयोग देती है। उनमें से कुछ का नाम भी मुझे लेना यहाँ पर बहुत ज़रूरी है। वेदवती वैदिक, जो कि रोज 4 दिन यहाँ पर आई, मैंने कभी नहीं देखा वो 4 दिन कहीं पर भी जाएंगी। और डॉक्टर वेद प्रताप वैदिक जी भी पहले दिन आए थे और बैठे रहे थे आधी दूर तक। उसके अलावा सरोज गुलाटी, डॉक्टर धर्मा और डॉक्टर सुषमा चौधरी, जिन्होंने इन्वोकेशन करवाया था कमला नेहरू कॉलेज से, और ये कानपुर से आए हुए नीलम त्रिवेदी जी, ललिता, एक एक का नाम मुझे पता है, शकुंतला पुंजानी जो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ दिल्ली की है, रंजीत बहेरा आप सब जानते हैं, डॉक्टर सतीश शंकर। 3 चैप्टर्स के प्रेसिडेंट ने यहाँ पर हमारे साथ शरीक हुए। डॉक्टर राम गोपाल जी जो अपने 1-2 प्रतिनिधि भी लाए थे जोधपुर चैप्टर से, डॉक्टर CL प्रभाकर जी जो बेंगलोर चैप्टर को संभाले हुए हैं। अभी इनको भी उत्तराधिकारी ढूंढना पड़ेगा, जिसकी आप लोग को चिंता होती है। सभी जगह ये समस्या है, खाली बाहर विदेश में नहीं। और तीसरे हरिद्वार जो चैप्टर है उससे प्रतिभा शुक्ला भी वहाँ की जो कार्य देख रही हैं वो भी यहाँ पर आई हुई थी, इस समय नहीं है। तो ये सब लोग यहाँ पर आए हुए थे और जो हमारे मार्ग दिखाते समय समय पर प्रोफेसर ललन प्रसाद जी, प्रोफेसर भूदेव शर्मा जी, प्रोफेसर गणेश शर्मा जी, वाधवा साहब, डॉक्टर चांद भरद्वाज जी, प्रोफेसर बजाज, हमारे मदन लाल गोयल जी, आप तो दोनों तरफ हैं, इसलिए मैं इधर से भी बोल सकती हूँ। तो रजनीश शुक्ला पीछे बैठे हुए हैं, आप राष्ट्रीय संस्थान का प्रतिनिधित्व कर रहे हैं। पीछे द्विवेदी जी, आप खड़े होइए, ये अभी कल ही मेंबर बने, बिल्कुल अंतिम मेंबर यही बने। ये ऐसे समयों पर हमारे कुछ मेंबर्स भी नए बन जाते हैं, क्योंकि वो बहुत प्रभावित होते हैं। और रात को इन्होंने 8:30 बजे चेक दिया है, और ये मैं तो कह रही थी कल दे देना, तो किसी ने बोला अभी इनका माइंड बदल ना जाए, ले लो। तो ये कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में ही हमारे सालाना नए मेंबर्स भी बन जाते हैं, और आप अभी हमारे मेंबर, विशेष मेंबर हैं। तो और इस तरह से बड़े सारे लोग हैं यहाँ पर बैठे हुए हैं। प्रेम को तो आपने अभी और एक बार इनका योगदान देखेंगे, हम ये वंदे मातरम भी गाएंगे। प्रेम देवली, जब भी कहीं पर संकट आएगा, हमारा वंदना के लोग, ऋषिराज आए नहीं जो आपने नाम देखा, क्योंकि सेंट स्टीफेंस में कोई दुर्घटना हो गई है, तो उसके स्थान पर इन लोगों ने ये कार्य संभाल लिया था। तो यही सब बातें हैं, कहने को बहुत कुछ है, लेकिन प्रोफेसर आर.पी. सिंह जो को चेयर रहे, वो भी अपने दूसरी तरह से हमें योगदान देते रहे। एडिटिंग में थोड़ा बहुत उन्होंने हमारा वहीं से अपने घर से ही कंप्यूटर के द्वारा कार्य करके बताया। तो इस तरह से उनका कॉन्फिडेंस हमें पैदा किया और डायरेक्शन भी देते रहे। एक बात जो बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है, डॉक्टर भूदेव शर्मा जी ने जो पॉइंट आउट की थी, तो उनको भी ये बताना और आप सभा को सबको बताना मैं चाहूँगी, और मुझे बड़ी खुशी बताते हुए कि ये वेव्स इंडिया की कॉन्फ्रेंस, जो वेव्स 20वीं कॉन्फ्रेंस, 20 साल का ये हो गया बालक जो भी है, तो इसका इस बार की ये कॉन्फ्रेंस बिना एक भी पैसा खर्च किए हुई है, क्योंकि इसका सारा खर्चे का जो फंड है वो श्री शशि केजरीवाल जी या कि वेव्स इंटरनेशनल के द्वारा दे दिया गया है। इसलिए ये वेव्स इंटरनेशनल की ही कॉन्फ्रेंस पूरी है और हम उसमें सहभागिता निभा रहे हैं। और भी कुछ रह गया हो तो मैं माफ़ी चाहूँगी। विद्वान जो आए, आप जैसे लोग, उनके लिए धन्यवाद। मैं क्या दूंगी, वो तो आपको बड़े बड़े लोग हर सत्र में भी दिया जाता रहा है। आपने बहुत अच्छे से मार्गदर्शन दिया, और लाइफ कम्स फ्रॉम लाइफ जो कहा था, वो अंतिम यहाँ जो आज वक्तव्य हुआ वहाँ पर आकर वो ठहर गया था। तो आप दोनों तो बहुत प्रेरणा स्रोत हैं। मुझे लगता है कि आपने जो कल बेंगलोर में कॉन्फ्रेंस की बात उठाई, तो इन लोगों को देखकर उठाई कि इतने प्रबुद्ध जो हमारे वैदिक साइंटिस्ट लोग हैं अगर देश में, तो यहाँ निराश होने की कोई बात नहीं है। आप दोनों से आप लोग परिचित ही हैं, प्रथम सत्र में थे निष्काम शांता जी और विज्ञान मुनि जी। आप दोनों आईआईटी के, जो कि देश में हमारे सबसे बड़ी संस्था मानी जाती हैं, उनके बहुत अच्छे मेरिटोरियस स्टूडेंट्स हैं, पीएचडी किया हुआ है और फिर वैदिक ज्ञान में गए हैं। तो इसलिए निराशा जैसी कोई भी बात नहीं है। उन्होंने भी बहुत अच्छे से हमें यही कहा कि ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, और एज और समय के साथ थोड़े दिनों में लोग अपने आप इस ज्ञान को समझने लगते हैं। उनके प्रति आदर तो है ही, और मैं तो हमेशा क्लास में भी कहती हूँ और यहाँ भी कहती हूँ कि चिंता की बिल्कुल भी बात नहीं है। जब वेद तो श्रुति ज्ञान है, वो तो याद करके ही चल रहा था। फिर बीच में 13-14 साल दूसरे लोगों ने राज्य किया, आक्रमण होते रहे, तब भी वो सुरक्षित रहा है। तो अब तो देश स्वतंत्र है, अब तो कोई रुकावट ही नहीं है। अब तो सारा कुछ डिजिटलाइज भी हो चुका है, इंटरनेट में भी पड़ा हुआ है। अब तो कोई खोने का कोई भी संभावना है ही नहीं। तो इसलिए ऐसी कोई भी बात नहीं है। उसका मूल्यांकन अभी होने लगा है और वेव्स उसी कार्य में लगा हुआ है। शुरू में कहा गया 3-3 के बात यहाँ पर हुई थी, और मैं आखिरी बात उसी से समाप्त करूँगी कि 3 यहाँ पर जो संस्थाएं थीं, उसके 3 लोग जो प्रमुख थे, कार्य कर रहे थे, वो तीनों शशि थे। आप सामने आएंगी। भारतीय विद्या भवन का जो इंडोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट है, उसकी हेड जो है, डीन है, वो शशि बाला। वेव्स इंटरनेशनल के शशि केजरीवाल जी। तो 3 शशियों ने मिलकर ये वेव्स को कॉन्फ्रेंस को संपन्न किया है। और इसके बाद मैं निवेदन करती हूँ धीरू भाई जी से कि आप इस अवसर पर 2 शब्द कहें। और इसके बाद प्रेम आप शांति पाठ और वंदे मातरम करेंगे। फोटो भी ग्रुप फोटो भी बाद में होगा।
शशि जी, यदि अपनी पूरी पंचांग सब कुछ चंद्रमा पे बेचते तो शशि नाम क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए?
I know that you are all hungry. Are you? No. You're not hungry? You're hungry.
Food for soul.
Food for soul. I am supposed to do the last part of the work to thank what a wonderful conference has been. But before that, I'd like to say some of the things what Budevji has said, that some people have asked me that as a non-academic, why are you in waves? What have you to do with waves? I'm basically an economist and a financial man. And when I was at London School of Economics in 1960, I was a Marxist and socialist, because that's what we were taught in terms of that Soviet Union was the country which has come up, and that is the method that every country should adopt. But over a period of time, I realized that that is the fallacy. So when you are young, you are a Marxist. When you grow old, you become a capitalist. So over a period of time, we realize that young people today, they follow what the teachers tell. So when you go to a school or when you go to a college, it is not the parents, it's not your elders, it is what your teacher tells you and what the books tells you. So in the United States or in India, today the young people listen to their own teachers and what they teach. As a result, what is happening in the United States, and I have been for last several years been trying to get young people into waves without any success. We brought two people, young people, and we expected them to perform. Unfortunately, not that that is their fault, but they have to take care of their families, they have to take care of their economic needs. As a result, they cannot devote much time. We have tried with various other people who are retired people, why don't you join? They don't have time. So it is not that efforts have not been made. Enough efforts have been made to bring in a lot of people, and in this conference we have realized there are young people who are interested in joining waves, and so we are going to do that. Finally, I'd like to start saying that this conference would not have been possible at all, in a sense that when we started this, we thought that we will be going to GNU, and unfortunately, logistic problems we had to be taken into consideration, and so at that particular juncture, we were very lucky that we got Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan to give us this opportunity to have the function here. So I'd like to thank Mr. Ashok Pradhan, the director of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, who has been very kind, and without asking for a single penny, he has given this place with all that support, so we are thankful to that. I would also like to thank the staff of the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, who have been sort of helping us to organize this program. So, we are really grateful to those people. I'd like to also thank our invited guests, and I'd just like to name some of them. Dr. Shantaji, thank you very much. It was his, I did not know him, and when somehow or other I got involved in his thread where they were discussing life comes from life, and so for 1 year I was listening and reading all that, and eventually I thought that I would like him to join us, and so very kind of you that you joined that. Thank you. Would like to also say Indrani Ramprasad. Where is Indrani? She's gone. Yeah. Jeffrey Armstrong. Thank you. Michael Stunfield. Thank you. Professor Narari Achar. Thank you so much, sir. John Keenan. Robert Snyder, I think he has left probably. Conrad. Great man, thank you. Professor Jagannathan, probably he's left. Madan Lal Goyalji, I think, oh, thank you very much. So some of these are the guests which we have invited them here, and we are really thankful to you. The final thing is, how could this conference be successful? Because we had only 1 month. And we were desperate that somehow this conference has to go through. Myself, Shashiji, and Balramji, we were really worried. And at that moment, we realized that only our hope is Shashiji Tiwari. So, she was reluctant in the beginning, but we persuaded her, and eventually we had to use our charm to tell her that, please, we are desperate, we need to have your help, and I think she went out of her way. I tell you, I'm not trying to sort of please her or something like that, but without her help, without her dedication, without her sincerity, this conference would not have been possible. So please give her a big hand. Along with that, I'd like to also thank the volunteers. Aparna ji, you have done a great job. Thank you very much. I know that you've been doing great work. So many of volunteers, I'd like to thank them also. And I'd like to thank also the catering people who have done a good job. I think the food has been pretty good here, I'm sure you like it. So we should be thankful to them. And finally, I think I would once again request you all that please keep in mind that WAVE is a platform where you can join us. If young people, particularly who have participated, we are so grateful to you that eventually we as old people, we must get out and the young people must come in, and only the organic growth will help us. Yeah. And also I must be thankful to the people who have done the cultural program here. I thought, I don't understand. I've not studied Sanskrit that much. When I was a young student here in India, at that time we learned Sanskrit, so I can read, probably can understand, but I do not write. But the Sanskrit program, that drama that you people did was excellent. I could understand it. Thank you. Finally, I just want, once again, I request young people, please join this movement, because if you want Hinduism, Vedic religion to survive, that is the only hope is the young people. Otherwise, we are going to have problems, and as Conrad said that we are having problems. We should not feel that everything is fine, because 1,000 years of history, we must learn from that, and we have not learned as yet. See, you must believe that, yes, you were a great people, but then today, that time, the India was far ahead in the world. We were a much bigger geographically. Today we are a small India. So we have lost that much part of it, and if we are not careful, we may lose a lot more part of this country also. So we should not be sort of sitting and saying that, oh, everything is fine, everything is going to. No, it's not going to be. We have a lot of adversaries, and we must be careful of that. With all that, thank you very much once again.
Please line up for the photograph. Thank you.
It's all very small fry. And yet, perhaps, there is no reason to despair. You see, there are a number of automatic developments unrelated to any specific pro-Hindu efforts that happen to be going your way. Like, for example, or especially, the fact of the internet. You see, I am surprised to see whenever I come to India how much life is changing because of that, and mostly in a pro-Hindu sense. First of all, in the polemics between Hindus on the one hand, secularists on the other, until recently they had a complete monopoly. They could accuse you of anything, they could make any slander against you, and you just were powerless to do anything about it. Now you see that monopoly isn't there anymore. What you put out on internet media has to be taken into account. You see, you've made a public statement to counter whatever they say, and from then on they cannot act anymore as if it is not there. In another sense, you see, the internet promotes a visual culture, an oral culture. Now, here we are among scholars, we are used to reading, but very many Hindus are averse to reading. When you present a book to an RSS leader, the first thing he always says is, can't you summarize this to a little brochure of a few pages? And I used to think, well, you see, this is the evidence of the lack of intellectual culture among the RSS. But you see, that may be a foreign prejudice. You see, at the same time, it is a very realistic appraisal of their own Hindu people, whom they understand much better than I do. And so very many of them do not have a long attention span, do not have a reading culture. Now, fortunately, there is the internet. Now you have all these TED Talks and webinars and so on. You know, you can immediately access information in an oral way. You have a great visual culture. You see, compared to Bible movies, anything offered by Hindu mythology is far more exciting, far more interesting, far more visual. And so somehow automatically this internet is greatly promoting the Hindu position. And again, Hindus have not really done anything for this. Nevertheless, it is happening. So I think, you see, we've heard about the 1,000 temples built in America that are not being attended. But nevertheless, perhaps all this money spent on temples rather than on social efforts are not wasted. Maybe it's because of these temples, maybe it's because of all these yajnas. I don't know what it is, but somehow these Hindu rituals, for the sake of clearing the atmosphere, of creating good vibrations, somehow seem to have an effect that in unexpected ways is favoring the Hindu position. And so for that reason, you see, trusting not so much our own effort, though I hesitate to say this because people might draw the lazy conclusion, oh, we don't have to do anything. But nevertheless, realistically speaking, I think that in spite of our own efforts, there are greater developments that have not been created by our efforts, but that somehow are very much in favor of the revival and the spread of Sanatana Dharma. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karnold East, for focusing our attention on the position of Hindus in Europe and also giving some very valuable solutions and points to solve that. We should remember all these things. That very important observation I feel this was. And now I am inviting Dr. Hariram Mishra, professor in the Center of Sanskrit, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for his observations and remarks.
It is pleasure for me to be here in this August gathering. Although I did not attend the conference, why? There were so many conferences in Delhi. One was in IGNCA, one was in JNU, and the third one is this. But my heart was here.
This is first.
Since I
That is second.
that can आप तीनों तरह से कह सकती हैं, फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड. थर्ड जब कहते हैं हम तो उसमें प्रोमिनेंस ज़्यादा होती है. पहले हम छोटे को लेते हैं, फिर थोड़ा जो गंभीर होता है, जो ज़्यादा गंभीर होता है उसको हम लास्ट में रखते हैं. दैट वे इट कैन बी. क्योंकि रस थियरी में पहले भट्ट लोलट को रखा, फिर शंकु को रखा, फिर भट्ट नायक को रखा. अभिनव गुप्त की थियरी सबसे बाद में आई जो डोमिनेंट है, आज तक डोमिनेंट. मैं वेब से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ. मैंने अहम संस्कृतेन वक्ष्यामि यतो हि एतेषाम् आचार्याणां बलराम सिंह महोदयानाम् आग्रहः आसीत् यत् संस्कृते वक्तव्यम्. यतो हि वैदिकं ज्ञानं संस्कृते वर्तते, संस्कृत माध्यमेनैव तस्य विकासः अभवत्, न केवलं भारते देशे अपि तु विश्वस्मिन् तस्य प्रचारः आसीत्। अहं वेब्स् इत्यस्य सम्मेलने त्रिनिदाद मध्ये आसन्। तत्र विचाराः आसन् कथं भारतीया संस्कृतिः विश्वस्मिन् प्रसरेत्, कथं च तया संस्कृत्या ये तत्र ग्रन्थाः भवन्ति, यस्तत्र आगमः अस्ति, यत्तत्र विज्ञानमस्ति, ज्ञानमस्ति, प्रज्ञा अस्ति, तन्माध्यमेन मानवतायाः कल्याणं कथं स्यादिति विमर्शस्तत्र आसीत्। विशेषतः आयुर्वेदक्षेत्रे, विज्ञानक्षेत्रे, साहित्यक्षेत्रे तत्र बहुधा जनसमवायः आसीत्। जनसमवायः इत्यस्य अर्थः बहूनां विदुषां तत्र समवायः आसीत्। महत् सम्मेलनं तत्र आसीत्। अत्रापि अस्ति, किन्तु तत्र अधिकः समवायः आसीत् इति मया वक्तुं शक्यते। वैदिकं ज्ञानम् अतीव प्रामाणिकं, तद्वशात् अस्माभिः अद्यापि तस्य ज्ञानस्य अनुसन्धानं क्रियते। कस्मात् अनुसन्धानं क्रियते इत्यत्र विचारणीयं भवति। यतोहि मानवानां तत्र स्वभावः अस्ति यत् ज्ञानं प्रति तेषां रुचिः स्वभावतः भवति। यदा कश्चित् जन्म लभते तदा तस्य मनसि बालकः, लघुबालकः चिन्तयति यत् किमिदमस्ति, किमिदमस्ति, पृच्छति सर्वान् यत् किमिदमस्ति, ये क्या है, ये क्या है, ये बालक जन्म लेते ही पूछने लगता है, क्योंकि उसको ज्ञान के प्रति लिप्सा होती है। ज्ञानं प्रति तस्य लिप्सा भवति इति स्वभावतः बुद्धिस्तत्र भवति, बुद्धौ ज्ञानस्य स्पृहा भवति। वैदिका ऋषयः अपि सर्वादौ कुत इयं विशिष्टिः, वयं कुतः इति तेषां मनसि आसीत्। तत्सन्दर्भे तैः सृष्टेः यद्मूलं तस्य विकासः कृतः, तस्य विवेचनं कृतं, कुतः वयं, कुतश्च इयं विशिष्टिः, वयं च के, किमर्थं वयम् अत्र संगताः इत्यादि तत्र सर्वं विमृष्टं वर्तते। अस्याः परम्परायाः विकासः अतीव विशालः अस्ति। कस्मात्, यतोहि अत्र प्रसूतं यस् ज्ञानं तत् त्यागमाध्यमेन प्राप्तं ज्ञानमस्ति। त्यागः कस्य? त्यागः सुखस्य, त्यागः वासनायाः। यतोहि ये ऋषयः आसन्, ये प्रत्यक्षीकृतमिदं ज्ञानं, तज्ज्ञानं साक्षात्कृतधर्माणः ऋषयो बभूवुः, ते असाक्षात्कृतधर्मभ्युपदेशेन मन्त्रान् सम्प्रादुः, मंत्रग्रहणाय इमं ग्रन्थं समाम्नाशिषुर्वेदं च वेदांगानि च। ते कस्यचित् पदस्य कृते अभीप्सवः नासन्, ते धनस्य कृते अभीप्सवः नासन्। यद्यपि एवं नास्ति यत् कर्म क्रियते तद्वशेन सर्वं प्राप्यते। कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजीविषेच्छतं समाः इति उच्यते। तथा च कथ्यते कृतं मे दक्षिणे हस्ते जयो मे सव्याहितः। यदि कर्म क्रियते चेत् अवश्यमेव तत्र जयः भवति। अद्य इयं चर्चा क्रियते यद् वयं कुत्र तिष्ठामः। विशेषतः भारते देशे, अन्येषु वा देशेषु जनानां मनांसि न तथा संगच्छन्ते, जनाः तथा न विचारयन्ति यद् मानवतायाः कल्याणं कथं स्यात्। किं वेदानाम् आविर्भावः केवलं भारतीयानां कृते आसीत्? नहीं, विश्वस्य कृते आसीत्। अवलोकयन्तु, एक मंत्र माध्यमेन अहम् एतमर्थं प्रकाशयिष्यामि। मंत्रमस्ति ओम तच्चक्षुर्देवहितं पुरस्तात् शुक्रमुच्चरत पश्येम शरदः शतं जीवेम शरदः शतं शतगुं शृणुयाम शरदः शतं प्रब्रवाम शरदः शतमदीनाः स्याम शरदः शतात्। अस्य मंत्रस्य अर्थः क्रियते चेत् तत्र पश्येम शरदः शतं, कश्चित् कथयेत् पश्येम, वयं पश्येम, वी मस्ट सी 100 years। वी इत्यस्य कः अर्थः? संस्कृते अहं त्वं सच इत्येवं सः इत्यस्य अर्थः अन्यः यः कश्चिदपि संसारे अस्ति सः तद वाच्यः। तत्शब्द से हम संसार के किसी भी प्राणी का कथन कर सकते हैं। त्वम से जो हमारे सामने है उसका कथन कर सकते हैं, अहम से अपना कर सकते हैं। अस्मिन् मंत्रे अहमिति पदम वयमिति पदम उपात्तम कर्तृत्वेन। कर्तृपदम अस्ति वयम, पश्येम इति क्रियापदम। अत्र विचार्यते चेत वयमिति पदेन सर्वेषां ग्रहणम्। यदा प्रार्थना क्रियते तदा केवलं न स्वस्मिन् कृते क्रियते अपितु सर्वेषां कृते क्रियते। किमुच्यते? स च त्वं च अहं च इति वयम्। तत्र पूर्वनिपात नियमः व्याकरण से मतलब अस्य वेदस्य व्याख्यानाय बहूनि विज्ञानानि आविष्कृतानि। तत्र व्याकरण विज्ञानं यस्य चर्चा क्रियत, निरुक्त विज्ञानं तन्माध्यमेन अस्य अर्थः क्रियते चेत् तदा सर्वेषामेव अत्र समावेशः सम्भवति। एवम् अस्ति तदेव ऋषीणां दृष्टिरासीत् यतोहि तेषां कृते सर्वेषां कल्याणम् आसीत् मनसि, न स्वस्य। यतोहि स्वस्य कल्याणं तु तैः सम्पादितमेव पूर्वमेव वेद साक्षात्कारात् पूर्वमेव, तदैव वेदानां साक्षात्कारः तैः अक्रियत। तो संगच्छध्वं संवदध्वं संवो मनांसि जानताम् वह इति पदम कदाचित् आनो भद्रा कृतवो यन्तु विश्वतो दब्धासो अपरीतासः इत्यादिषु सर्वत्रापि नः इति पदेन सर्वेषामेव ग्रहणम् इत्यस्ति। एकम् अन्यदपि स्मरामि कथं वेदानां महत्त्वम् अस्ति तथा एव सर्वाः धाराः प्रवृत्ताः इति चिन्तनीयं वर्तते सर्वेषां कृते, यद्वशात् सर्वेषामेव उत्साहः स्यात्। अत्र एकः सामाजिकः प्रश्नः सञ्जागर्ति यत् कैश्चित् उच्यते, विशेषतः अस्माकं जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालये यत्र वामपन्थिनाम् आग्रहः अधिकः वर्तते, तैः किम् उच्यते यत् एतत् ज्ञानं यदासीत् तत् केषाञ्चिदेव कृते आसीत्, न सर्वेषां कृते। उनका ये बहुत बड़ा आरोप है कि जो भारतीय ज्ञान की जिसकी आप बात करते हैं, वर्तमान ज्ञान, संस्कृत ज्ञान की, संस्कृत ज्ञान परंपरा की जिसका आप बात करते हैं, वो कुछ लोगों के लिए था और सब लोगों को उसमें जोड़ने की बात नहीं की गई थी। अहम वेदस्य एकम मंत्रम स्मरामि मित्रस्याहम चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षे। अहम मित्रस्य चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि, न मानवान् केवलम, न पशून् केवलम, प्राणि मात्रम। यत्र यत्र प्राणाः सन्ति मित्रस्याहम चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षे। सर्व शब्दस्तत्र प्रयुज्यते। कश्चित् कथयति बहुजन हिताय बहुजन सुखाय। नेयम् अस्माकं धारणा। अस्माकं धारणा अस्ति सर्वजन हिताय सर्वजन सुखाय। सर्वे जनाः सुखिनः स्युः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। इदं मंत्रमस्ति। मित्रदृशा वयं सर्वान् पश्यामः। वी मस्ट लुक एट अदर्स एज फ्रेंड्स, that he is mine, friend of mine। वो हमारा मित्र है। अगर मित्र है तो हम उसका अपकार तो नहीं कर सकते हैं। मित्रस्य अहं चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षे, मित्रस्य मा चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षन्ताम्। तदेव उच्यते सर्ववैर परित्यागः। सर्ववैर परित्यागः मतलब वैर भावना कस्यापि कृते न स्यात् इति वैदिकानां ऋषीणां तत्र आग्रहस्तिष्ठति। अतः परम मानव स्वभावः लोभवशात् मोहवशात् मात्सर्यवशात् कदाचित् विचारयति यत् मत् पार्श्वे अधिकं स्यात् अन्यस्य पार्श्वे न स्यात् इत्यपि मनसि आयाति। ये स्वभाव है हमारा कि मोह के कारण, लोभ के कारण हम अधिक चाहते हैं, उसमें असमानता का भाव आ जाता है। तदपि कदाचित् कर्मवशादपि भवति, तस्यापि तत्र निर्देशः तिष्ठति। मंत्रः अस्ति अक्षणवन्तः कर्णवन्तः सखायः मनोजवे श्वसमा बभूवुः आदघ्नास उपकक्षास उत्वे हृदय स्नात्वा उत्वे ददृशे। अस्य अर्थः अस्ति यदा कर्म यदा क्रियते तदा भेदः भवति। जनानां भेदः, कश्चित् अधिकः भवति, कश्चित् न्यूनः भवति। तदर्थम संगच्छध्वम संवदध्वम समवो बनांसि जानताम देवा भागम यथा पूर्वे एवं सर्वमासीत्। संगच्छध्वम अद्य किमस्ति संगति न संभवति, कदाचित संगतिर्भवत्यपि संवदनम न संभवति, संवदनम भवत्यपि मनस्तु कदापि न संगच्छते। मने हमारा मन कहाँ मिल रहा है, हम किन परिस्थितियों से गुजर रहे हैं, किंतु देयर इज अ होप वेयर वी आर थिंकिंग। और यही हमारे आचार्यों की विशेषता रही है कि हमें अपना काम करना है, हम दुनिया क्या कर रहे हैं इस पर बहुत हम नहीं सोचते हैं। आज हमारे विद्यार्थियों के सामने, हमारे छात्रों के सामने ये बहुत बड़ी समस्या है। एक तो धन के प्रति आकर्षण हमेशा से रहा है, तभी उपनिषदों में कहना पड़ा न वित्तेन तर्पणीयो मनुष्य। आज भी वो स्थिति है, हर व्यक्ति को धन चाहिए, कोई भी ऐसा नहीं है जो ये कहे नहीं हम केवल शास्त्र के लिए, हम केवल ज्ञान के लिए लगे हैं, तो वो करना चाहता है। किंतु हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हम उनको ये कह सकते हैं अपने आचरण के। अच्छा एक चीज और है, हम भाषण से नहीं सिखा सकते किसी को। हमारे आचार्य यास्क हैं, उन्होंने कहा आचार्य कस्मात्, कहा आचारम ग्राह्यति थी आचार्य। आचारम ग्राह्यति माने बोल के आपने विद्यार्थी को सिखा दिया नहीं, प्रथमम आचारम करोति प्रथमम आचरति तथा आचारम ग्राह्यति। पहले हम आचरण करते हैं फिर हम आचार का ग्रहण कराते हैं। इस प्रकार से अगर हमारा व्यवहार होता है तो निश्चित रूप से हमारी बातें आगे जाती हैं। और हमारे पास बहुत तरह के इस तरह के अवसर आए जब हम कभी पीछे हुए, कभी हम फिर आगे भी गए, बहुत से हमारे ऊपर आक्रमण हुए, बहुत तरह की हमारे सामने भी संगतियां आई, फिर भी हमने सबको फेस किया। और यह विश्वास के साथ मैं कहता हूँ कि जब वाल्मीकि रामायण संस्कृत भाषा के माध्यम से जो प्रसिद्ध होना चाहिए था नहीं हो पा रहा था, तो उस समय रामचरितमानस आया। एक समय हमने देखा है हर घर में रामचरितमानस पढ़ा जाता था, गांव में ऐसा कोई घर नहीं था जहां रामचरितमानस नहीं था। आज हम सिनेमा के माध्यम से, किसी भी माध्यम से हम उन चीज़ों से परिचित हो रहे हैं और आज भी अच्छे आचरण की ओर उन्मुख हो रहे हैं। ये होप है, हम कर्म करेंगे तो निश्चित रूप से आगे बढ़ेंगे। इतना कह करके मैं अपना
अहम वेव्स पक्षतः डॉक्टर हरिराम मिश्र महोदयानां कृते भूरिशः धन्यवादः व्याज्ञापयामि। You have rightly pointed out that the essence of the whole Ved is welfare of all. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, na tu bahujan hitaya bahujan sukhaya. If we will say bahujan hitaya, then we will be lefting many of that benefit. So sarva jana, this is the essence, sarva kalyana bhavana. आपने बहुत अच्छे से सार की बात यहाँ पर रखी है, आपके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। And now I request Professor B.N. Narhari Acharya, a very learned thinker and a great intellectual, to please release these two books. They are publications of Motilal Banarsi Das, and if he is here, Mr. Jain, please come on the dais. And these books are named as Vedic Investigation and Vedic Physics. And R.P. Jain is the producer of these two books, so please release them. Thank you, Professor Acharya, and thank you, Dr. Jain, R.P. Jain sir. These are two very important books, and it is a good thing that in WAVES conference these Vedic research reference books are released here. So we are thankful to Motilal Banarsi Das. And now I invite Professor Balram Singh ji to say few words on this occasion.
Thank you, Professor Tiwari, Shashi Tiwari ji. I'm so grateful that we are coming to the ends. Here I like to say a few words. I've been speaking about my own views, but I do want to say something about the waves, his mission, and something about the conference, and something what I've been learning and what we might like to do in the future. I've been associated with waves for the last 16 years or so. First time I was introduced to this by Professor Vidya Sharma ji. We met in New Jersey, and then we hosted the conference after that in 2002 at the University of Massachusetts. And then since then I've been associated. It has very unique mission, which is a little different than many other academic societies. I've looked at this bylaws and other things, because initially I was a little bit confused about this whole thing, because you have all kind of people come to WAPES. Because Vedic knowledge is not necessarily only in academia, even though we like to bring academic people into this conference, but we recognize, the WAPES recognizes that knowledge can come from anywhere. And so at least, as we saw this morning in the session, there were two scholars who were not exactly in their field of academic work, but they really have done wonderful work. And there are so many others who really are practitioners, and they are enlightening us, so-called academicians, as to where we are going wrong. So this is something very important, and we continue to do that, and I'm so glad that we continue to do that. And so working with Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and other organizations in the future will be a wonderful thing for us to do. Coming to India, it is first time. It was, to a certain degree, I am the person who is the culprit of bringing WAPES International to India, because I've been insisting to bring it to India. We tried once in 2012, and the board decided not to. This time I was able to convince them, and then I'm responsible for all the things that have gone wrong with it. But I think, and looking at the bright side, it has been wonderful experience. I've never had as good experience of discussions and learning, interacting, and making friends with some of you I did not know before. And so it has been only pleasure. In terms of inspiration, I mean, the WAPES International leadership has been wonderful in accepting some of these suggestions. And I'm on the board, I'm not really in the leadership, but they have been very supportive. But we also have worked with Infinity Foundation. Rajiv Malhotra, some of you know, he is not be able to come here because he's in a retreat until 20th, and he could not even connect with the internet. Otherwise, he wanted to give at least a keynote. Maryada Foundation, something that I started a few years ago, and so we have been very happy to work with WAPES for this kind of activities. And the new research foundation that we just saw R.P. Jain ji come here on the stage from MLBD. Many of you know MLBD is internationally top-notch publisher for Indology type of books. And he has just started an MLBD research foundation. So they are going to have a very different, another supporting group. Yeah, we should give him a big hand. And I'm very fortunate to be associated with that. And actually, he is the responsible for finding this place. I am not, even though everybody is giving. And so I made him do some work already. They actually are very committed people. Those of you who do not know, they live a joint family for 109 years or so. They're running this business. This is inspiration to me, because my family also is a joint family. And of course, we are not as enlightened as these people are, but I at least getting some learning from that. So they have started a book series based on stories, which is going to be based on many of the Vedic knowledge and Vedic stories and Puranas, and that they want to write in English so that other people can also learn. And I think we should help them in that process. We should get involved and help them. They also have planned to, the foundation, MLBD Research Foundation, plans to have some conclaves, which will be a little different than the conference. And so if some of you may have ideas, please chat with him. Now I want to come back and talk a little bit about the, excuse me, science and Veda, which really basically means the same thing. If I ask Jeffrey, he will tell me exactly it means the same thing. Science means knowledge, and Veda also means knowledge. Although they come from different perspectives, which is very important to know, and which is why we have this, the scientific aspects of Veda, as if there is a non-scientific aspect of Veda also. which basically means material science we try to talk to and talk about when we say science today. But the scientific is different than just science. Scientific approach is very rational approach, which I think Vedic knowledge is very scientific. It may not be exactly science, but I know I've been hearing this dichotomy that some of us are saying that it matches with science, so it's great. I'm afraid of that, because what if science goes wrong someday and then we have to say Vedas were wrong too. And the other one is that science has nothing to do with Vedas, and we are completely different. I somehow think that it's like when you have a small baby infant, you talk to an infant talk. You just talk like a baby, and slowly you bring them up to, and then where you have conversation with them as they grow up. So I think Veda is more like a mature knowledge, and science is in infant stages. So we make mistakes, but I think we can learn a lot, just like we learn from our parents. I also think, strategically speaking, science has become a language today. It's well accepted language of knowledge. I'm not talking about English or Sanskrit. And it also acts as a weapon. People use science sometimes against some of the practices that you may have. And so you have to develop that weapon also. So you have the scientific aspect of Vedic knowledge is important weapon that you need to have, because you're going to face them. And if you're going to face them, then you better know them. I heard a few things that disturbs me, and it's in the spirit of conference I'm saying, disturbs me not personally. It disturbs me academically or professionally. I heard some of the saying that we need to develop more Hindu academics. We need to have more Indologists. Isn't that the problem so far we are facing? So we are going to develop more of them, and we have tried to do that. Believe me, I know several people who have tried to become academics in a very sincere way. But the academics has its own rhythm, When you get to the professor and then you have to listen to them. I had several young people who come to me and trying to get some advice as they are doing PhD, and they want to go to Western countries and then want to demonstrate to them that they really have the knowledge. These are Sanskrit students. But it's Western academia has its own rhythm, and you have to eventually, after a while, you start playing the same rhythm. So you have to be very careful with that. Same thing is true about Indology. I mean, it has a history. Knowledge in academic and intellectual world is, particularly in a scholarly way, is based on previous knowledge. And so if you have academia which has Indology, you're not going to be able to shake it up right away. I mean, it's going to be taking a longer time. I believe that this is a problem that we need to consider as a problem, rather than that we want to do this or we want to do that. I think a conference gives an opportunity to consider those kind of things, explore them. Then there is a dichotomy of Sanskrit people not knowing science and scientists not knowing Sanskrit. There was a strong comment about that. I think it's a good idea. I wish I could know. I mean, there was a time when I decided that I would work more towards Sanskrit than towards math, which I wanted to do. There was a time when I thought I would learn more math and then try to improve my science. But I personally decided that I will use Sanskrit route. But I don't really necessarily have to know everything. Today's world has become very collaborative. So all you have to do is be willing to work with somebody who knows it, and then be willing to work with. So I have been able to work with several scholars in that sense. In this conference, I heard so much about consciousness. This is a wonderful idea. It is practiced in India in many ways. Sometimes we don't even realize. We heard about biology, chemistry, physics, how they're all related to that. We heard about some wonderful green technology that you can create nanomaterials using ancient technology, much cheaper, much faster, and much more environment friendly. We talked about castes and where the origin is and how to use that. We talked about epics and how we can get inspired from. We talked about rituals that we need to learn better. We need to set up standards and we need to follow them, whether they are yajnas or their mantras and things of that nature. And so I'm glad that our president, Sasi Kejriwalji, has been very emphatic that we should do more of this. Obviously, biennial conferences will not be possible to do all the time in India or in the US, and I hope that this really spreads out throughout the world, because this knowledge that we are hearing is for everyone, and the more we go, better will it be. The Sanskrit, coming to a little bit of criticism, the culture in this is, I'm not talking about based on this conference only, the Sanskrit departments and Sanskrit scholars really need to work, modernize their thoughts. This is wonderful to have whatever they have, but they have to realize the world has changed, and I think they need to be aware of that. And I think this, I hope this conference has opened few eyes about that. The most important thing is the young people. To say that, yeah, you study in Sanskrit and Vedas and you will get a teaching job is not, that's just, I think it's a recipe for failure for the future. You really need to make it irrelevant. We need to make Sanskrit irrelevant. I was in Professor Hariram Misra's center as a visiting professor in 2015, and there I was told that, well, when they talk to government, the government people say this is really, Sanskrit is a kind of thing that does not entice them because it doesn't have any GDP value. And so I counted on my hand and I said that there is a $46 billion industry going on in Sanskrit. All the yagyas, all the sadi, vivas, सारी चीजें जो होती हैं संस्कृत में ही तो होती हैं. सबको जोड़ लीजिए. तो $46 billion का बोलिए कि $46 billion की इंडस्ट्री है, तब आप जाके फिर से बात कीजिए सेक्रेटरी तो वो सुनेंगे आपकी बात. IT इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी इंडस्ट्री जो 7-8 साल शुरू हुई तो $5 billion की इंडस्ट्री थी. और 46 बिलियन तो बहुत होता है. वो तो मैं एक्चुअली जीने से लेके मरने तक तो संस्कृत में ही करना पड़ता है. सब सारा चीज तो उसी में जोड़ सकते हैं. द आइडिया इज दैट यू नीड टू मार्केट योरसेल्फ. यू नीड टू नो दैट दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. द वर्ल्ड हैज चेंज्ड. Same way about science. There is so much thing people talking about science. I'm particularly personally very interested in learning about Sanskrit and how the science knowledge is in there. And if we are able to build that idea and be able to convince to young people, get them involved, that will be great. But on fundamental level, I think looking at only the westernized system, whether it's academia or scholarship or science, is not going to solve the problem because there are fundamental issues. I think we talked about some poison pills this morning. I think the ontology of knowledge system has to be created. Ontology of knowledge system has to be created for modern times. And this has to be raised to the level what we have at the Western system. Then only you can question them. And I'm glad that there are Bharati Vidya Bhavan people are interested in that. Many other scholars are interested. Then we would like to work with them, hopefully, in such a way that there is an indigenous perspective on the knowledge creation. Both epistemology and the ontology needs to be developed, and it needs to be marketed, in my opinion, again, as an integrated system, not isolated system, not in the silos, because that's not what Vedas say. So you have to create a system that is relevant to that, that is in consonance with that. So you have to have integrated medicine, you have to get integrated science, you have to have integrated economics, you have to get integrated political system, social system. We need to work with that. And I think my view, based on my academic work and the people that I have worked with, its first thing is to do collaboration. I'm so glad that this conference has allowed that, and I hope we continue doing that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Professor Singh. And now I invite for a presidential address by Professor Lalan Prasad. And after that, vote of thanks will be there, which is a very important part of valedictory session, and it will be followed by lunch. So I think we may conclude by 2:30 this program and go to canteen for that. After that, group picture is also in line. So Dr. Lalan Prasad is requested. Please give your comments.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi Tiwari ji. I have been asked to be very brief, so and also because the lunch time is there, and I will not take much time. But friends, we are honored by the distinguished scholars who have come from different parts of the world, and these 4 days have been wonderful. The deliberations which have gone into will go a long way in developing the literature which is badly needed in this country and abroad to present Vedic knowledge in its true perspective. We have amongst us Professor Bhudev Sharma, the founder of Waves, and you all know that he has been doing relentless efforts to educate people worldwide, I should say, about the misconceptions which have been there about our Vedic knowledge. And a lot of literature which have flown into West, if you look seriously upon them, these have been prejudiced because of their own social and value systems. Also because we have been under their control, their rule. And so much of the things which have been written, they have been against India and its literature, its past glory and so on and so forth. There have been very few books like Last Discoveries or Wonderful that India was and things of that nature. A good deal of criticism has been going on into West for a very long time. But now the time has come when I think the West is also realizing that there is something great